Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 115 of the White Knuckle Podcast, powered by Ozonics. Undetectable, undeniable. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning back into episode number 115 of the White Knuckle Podcast. Today, I have really a couple of guests. One is the co-host, Travis Hamele, who he would be my boss in the real estate end of things. And the other gentleman that we're going to talk to today is Mr. Adam Stenner. Now, Adam is as a teacher in a school district not far from where I hunt, and he recently made the news around here for his efforts to get kids involved in the outdoors. And I think this is something that's often overlooked and not talked about enough. So hopefully you get some nuggets of information out of this that you can put to use yourself, and go ahead and get a kid outdoors. That's the bottom line. Do what you can to get a child outdoors, or someone maybe that isn't currently enjoying the outdoors like we are, offer to take them along. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the White Knuckle Podcast. Tonight I am joined by a couple of folks. One of them who is new to the White Knuckle show as a co-host, Mr. Travis Hamele, and the other is new to the show, period, and that is Mr. Adam Stenner. Guys, how's it going tonight?
Doing great.
Good deal. Adam, did I get your name right?
Yep, you got it right.
Great. Travis, how's it going?
Good. Just downloading some trail cam pictures and taking a look at the North American whitetail and grilling out some venison as we speak.
Nice. So you're able to multitask like that? I am not. Let's get a little bit of history. Actually, first, let's just, for the White Knuckle listeners, we're doing this as a crossover show with the other podcast that I host, the Stand on Your Investment podcast. And we're doing it because I think it's a pretty important topic that we wanted to talk about. We'll get to that in just a second. But Travis, why don't you tell real quick a little bit about yourself, so those that don't know you, that listen to the White Knuckle Podcast, will at least be able to get some context as to why in the world you've been graced with the with the privilege of being on the podcast.
Geez, I don't even know how to follow that up. It's as you know, everybody that's usually on this show or part of the show or any, the hunting podcast. I grew up hunting. Hunting's deep into our family tradition. We still got a farm that we hunt that was bought by my great grandfather in the 1800s here in Wisconsin Dells area, and then went off to college and got out of college, started selling cars. Where, of course, I met Jason years and years ago, and then I had a dream to take over my dad's auction company and get into real estate. And then when I got into real estate, I realized there was a lot of people going after residential, and I loved land and I loved hunting. So I created kind of a little motto that ended up turning into UC Hunting Properties, and, kind of built a, nice little niche marketing company inside of the hunting world to market hunting properties. So, and it's a passion, finding other people. I mean, I got a message tonight that a guy said, I'm just looking for 40 acres so my daughters have a place to hunt. That's why we do this. We don't do it, the money is just a byproduct, like I've always said. It's helping create these memories. So that's enough about myself.
Adam and Travis, I think it's fair to say that this topic that we're going to talk about tonight is something that's pretty close to your heart. I know just from working with you here the last year, and that's why you were excited about being on the call as well. Adam, welcome to the show. First of all, thanks for taking time out of your night and dealing with the technical difficulties. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit of your background, and then we can get into what it is that you do and what it is that you've done to earn yourself a spot on this esteemed show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. I graduated from college in about 2014-ish or so with a degree in physical education. I started teaching, and I moved up to Viroqua. I teach high school Phi Ed now. I'm very passionate about bow hunting, even gun hunting, bow fishing, turkey hunting. I do all of it. But I actually wrote a grant for adding fishing and archery into my Phi Ed stuff, and that's kind of how I got onto the show. Do you want me to go into that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I would say go into it. You know, Adam, kind of. I mean, I know there was probably, and I can probably speak to Jason this, a lot of stumbling blocks and hurdles and, you know, creeks you had to cross, just like in the hunting industry. But your determination in the hunting and your passion got you through that, you know, to the end goal. And I mean, you know, if you could kind of summarize the path, would be awesome.
Okay. So when I turned 18, I first started taking kids out on the youth deer hunts, the youth turkey hunts, and I got a huge passion for getting kids out, especially kids that don't have the opportunity. Say maybe they don't have a dad in the picture, or their father or uncles or nobody else in their family hunts. So we're giving them that opportunity to get out there. When I got to Viroqua, I was actually working part-time. It was awesome. I was working 8 to 1, and I could go bow hunting every night. I was single. I was putting a couple hundred hours in the tree stand. It was good. And then I moved to full-time.
That's over now.
Yeah. Once I moved to full-time, my wife and I eventually got married. I have a stepson. His name's Harper. He's 8. He goes hunting with me all the time. And we just had a baby, actually, Maverick. So with the going to full time, I got extra classes. So within my classes, I got to rewrite my whole curriculum, and so I started to add different things into Phi Ed. I'm very passionate about all sports, and I'm not trying to bash like basketball or anything like that. But as we get older and as we graduate, and you guys can probably attest to this, we don't typically find 10 people to play 5-on-5 pickup basketball, or if you don't play slow pitch beer league softball, you probably don't play it. Now, it's still important to know the rules. So, like, if you're watching the World Series tonight, you can follow it and see what's going on, or you listen to the radio to a football game, and you can follow and understand it. Or if you do find 5 people, you can play basketball. So I wanted to focus on more things that would get kids off the couch, get them excited. So the first thing I did 2 years ago was to write an archery grant. So I wrote an archery grant through Wisconsin DNR, and it was sponsored by Whitetail Unlimited, Wisconsin Bow Hunters Association, SCI, the Safari Club International, and I got 12 Genesis bows, 6 block targets, a bow tree, bow rack, and 10 dozen Easton arrows. And that was a struggle. It took me a lot of convincing to get the school board and my principal on board. It was a guaranteed grant. As long as I filled out the stuff, I would get it. But they were obviously worried about storing the equipment, making sure it's locked up all the time. So it stays locked in my office at all times until we're ready to use it. We actually shot it today. So that gets a couple hundred kids every year shooting archery equipment, which I think is great.
Did you say a couple hundred?
Yeah, a couple hundred. By the time I go through, we have probably 350-ish kids in the high school, and I probably get 300 of them a year in Phi Ed. So roughly 250 to 300 kids get to shoot bows every year.
Sure.
So
awesome.
Moving on, this year I wanted to, or it would have been last year, I started writing the grant. I searched all over. It took me 2 weeks to even find a grant for fishing. So I stumbled upon the Angler R3 grant through the Wisconsin DNR, and that was based on trying to recruit kids for fishing, retain them, or reactivate them if they haven't been fishing for a while. And the problem was I found the grant on like September 21st, and it was due like at the end of September or the beginning of October. So I had like 10 days to write it. So I got cruising on it. I got a lot of help from a couple of ladies at the DNR office. But the goal is to grow the number of anglers in Wisconsin and expand participation among young adults. With the R3 grant, it kind of takes place of the old Angler Ed program. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But when I was in college, that was kind of floating around, and you could get fishing poles and fishing equipment, and you kind of shared it among districts around the area.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it, but
okay. So this is a little bit different. There was no way to have any data showing like how many kids retained that fishing license or kept purchasing that fishing license. So the main difference between the two now with the R3 one is this data allows long-term license buying habits to show because I submit their customer number, and then can follow that and track that.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. So a lot of this is, getting a kid their first customer number ever, and they think that's pretty cool. And then showing them how to purchase online, and we do a lot of fishing in class. So my current class just got done. I took 3 different classes out to Sighty Hollow. It's just a little lake outside Viroqua. And when we went out there, before we went out, we did it with the 2-week unit. We start with this knot tying, like classic fisherman's knot, a whole bunch of other ones. We do a little casting, overhead, sidearm. We pitch and flip. We do all kinds of stuff with that. I teach them the Texas, Carolina, wacky drop shot rigs, anything like that. And then we go from the basics from using the bobber to specific rigs for a bass or a northern, trout, different things like that. We focus a lot on fish identification and habitat, how to find them, where to find them at. We talk a little bit about life jackets. Eventually, I'll get into some boater safety with them where they can take the course actually at the school. I think that's a very important thing, too. Like I said, we purchased a license. Then in the wintertime, so my spring and my fall quarter classes, they will go out and they'll do some spinner fishing out on the lake. And then my 2 winter classes, they go out and get to go ice fishing. So with that, we learn how to check the ice. We set up some shanties. One of my teachers that I work with has an egg processing class. So right now they're starting to cut up venison and stuff that the kids are shooting and bringing in. And they went out with us. They caught the fish. They cleaned the fish. They mount the fish. So they get to see all sides of it. And that's 5 straight days they get to go out. We have 85-minute class periods, so they get to fish for about 55 minutes each day, just out at Sighty Hollow. I also started last year an ice fishing team. I don't know if you guys have been familiar about that, but that's been kicking off in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Portage got one of those.
Yep, they do.
So down here in the southwest corner of the state, it is not very popular because we don't have the lakes. We fish a lot of rivers. The ice isn't very good all the time. So last year, I kind of had been looking at it for a couple of years, picking through it, trying to figure out how to get there, what to do, how to raise money for it. And last year, I got the school to pitch in a little bit and buy the bait and do all that. And we actually went to the state tournament that was held in La Crosse. They're trying to get more schools down around this area. If anybody's listening and wants help trying to get a school, a team at your school going, they can certainly get a hold of me. That'd be great. So we went to Rice Lake for a tournament. We all got up at like 3:30 in the morning. We drove up to Rice Lake. It was a couple-hour drive. Fishing started at 6, and we didn't really know what to expect. Each team has like 10 players on it, and you're trying to catch as many fish as you can. And they're all sending the pictures of the fish on a ruler to me, and I'm recording them as we go. We're fishing with tip-ups, and we're fishing with jig poles, and we ended up getting 10th place out of like 20. And the kids really, really enjoyed it. Went back to school. I got even more kids involved. And then we went to the lacrosse tournament, which was a heck of an experience. It was pretty cool. There was people flying up and down the ice. There was hundreds of kids there. And it was just a good time. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. In the future, I got to get it approved. I'm struggling right now because we have a pool at the school, and I want to get it approved so that I can take the kids in the pool with either kayaks or a canoe. A lot around us here in Southwest Wisconsin, we have a ton of streams and places where kids can go canoeing and kayaking. A lot of businesses have tube rentals, different things like that, kayak rentals, and show them how, if they tip their canoe over in shallow water, how to get it back up by themselves or with a group of two, and the same as in deep water. I also want to teach them, and that was a little bit of like sanitary, and they were worried about breaking the tiles. So I have to figure out a way. I was thinking maybe inflatable kayaks. I haven't quite got past that one yet. And we also want to take like shallow and deep diving crankbaits and take the treble hooks off of them and cast them in the pool with them wearing goggles so they can look underwater as a friend is reeling it in to see how those actually work in the water. But I'm struggling right now with the pool letting me do that, just with sanitation reasons and stuff like that. Haven't quite got them sold on that. Also,
I love it.
Also, I've contacted the DNR warden down here in Crawford County. We're in Vernon County for the school, but he's all on board about coming in and going fishing with the kids. I think it's great that we have like positive interactions with the DNR. 9 times out of 10 people or kids, especially here, their parents talking about a DNR warden or like in my case, my dad was a cop, so I always got the gruff at the school, and he took somebody, wrote them a ticket or anything like that. But I think positive interactions with those guys where they're not in a setting where they're trying to write a ticket is a great way for kids to see them and use them as a resource. And then I'm also working on having like a senior-only class. I got to get this through my principal, too, to get him on board. But where we can, it'd be like a class of 10 where we can take our 11-passenger van and go to different trout streams and possibly shed hunt at Sighty Hollers, a lot of public land around there, read maps, identify public land, different things like that. But that would have to come through the school board and through my principal. But that's kind of where I'm at with all this. It's very exciting. The kids are really, really enjoying it. I'm having a great time teaching it. With my grant, I wrote the grant for $8,500 and thinking that they'd cut it down and cut it and cut it and cut it. And it actually passed for $8,500. So they're paying 80% of it and the school pays 20%. So that comes out of my yearly budget. But I'll just give you kind of a list of what I've purchased so far. And I still have quite a bit of money left. I bought 30 spinning rod and reel combos, a couple bait casters, 5 of the push-button Zebco 33s from way back in the day, 3 tackle boxes full of lures. I have a bunch of spools of Power Pro. I have a big Frable minnow bucket to keep those alive. We have 30 Frable ice fishing poles. We have 2 6x12 shanties for 6 people each. I got a propane auger, laser 6-inch auger, so they get the laser hand auger a hole before they get to use the big propane auger. Everybody needs to experience that in 12 inches of ice or more. 2 Mr. Buddy heaters, 5 tip-ups, and then I got a ton of jigs. I actually emailed a couple of companies, Flirty Gertie, if you're familiar with those guys. Mm-hmm. They gave me like bulk pricing on all their jigs, and of course it's tax exempt for the school, but they're giving me a heck of a deal. And then BY Baits out of Muscadet, Wisconsin, they do a lot of soft plastics, and they're starting to get all over there, up in Shields and all different places like that, and stores all over Wisconsin. And they gave me 30 packs, and I think there was 10 soft plastics in each one. And they gave us some decals and some hats and stuff like that. And then I'm also getting some flies this week from Driftless Angler in Viroqua, so trying to get kids to use those resources around our area to purchase some of that equipment once they get out of the class and keep fishing. Yeah.
So the reason that I think that this is super important, or things like this, or thinking outside of the box, and Trav, jump in whenever you want, is just that I think the biggest problem as an industry that we face is hunter and fisher men, women, recruitment. I think, I don't know what you're seeing on your end, Adam, but I hear whether it's at the Archery Trade Association show every year in January or wherever, that the hunter recruitment and this again is at the ATA show, so it'd be just hunter recruitment is down every year over year over year. Do you think something like this is going to be a help? And do you think that part of the reason that we have such poor, let's just call it outdoor person recruitment, is because they just aren't being subjected to it at a young age?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of both. I had a lot of kids that had been fishing. Their parents took them fishing for the first time, and then they just never went again. And then looking through, when I had them, I had to put their names down, their new customer number or their customer number they've always had. And then I had them right in there too, whether this was the first license they purchased, if they've ever even known that they had a customer number, different things like that. And it just baffled me, the amount of kids that this was the first time they've ever even had a customer number. So I think a lot of it is they're just not getting that experience, even at a young age, to continue through life.
And Adam, and I suppose you see the flip side of that is people that were introduced into the hunting and fishing, kind of culture, as we call it. And because of the demand for, other sports and just the more availability of that team sport aspect, it kind of I look back when I was in high school, I got pulled away from hunting and fishing constantly because I had a tournament this weekend. And I was beat up from the football game the night before. I get it. But, I mean, when you're talking about the ice fishing team and this and that, I want to go back to high school. Ronnie Dangerfield back to school. I'm there. But, no, I mean, have you seen a lot of people re-engage into the culture because it's more of a team aspect now with the ice fishing teams and some of that other stuff?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that too. The kids like it, the competitive level of it, and that was the hardest thing with writing the Angler Archery Grant is they wanted absolutely no competition in it. So although I have like a lot of this ice fishing stuff, we technically can't use it for the ice fishing team when we go to these competitions, but I'm fortunate enough that there's enough people in the community that have contacted me, and we get all kinds of ice shanties. People bring them in, we return them, all kinds of fishing poles. I'm kind of like you guys. If I have one thing, I have 100 different hunting items or fishing items, so the kids can use that stuff. But they really like the competition and going there and trying to use that competition to get to the next level and find more fish and doing different things like that. I see it a lot with the archery too. The kids are super excited. Part of if I get that extra class would be to go up to Westby. They have an archery course, and we'd walk that and shoot that. I mean, that's just good exercise, and the kids want to do that type of stuff. It's just getting through all these steps to get there, and to have the school board let us and have our principals be on board and different things like that. And they've been great the whole time.
Why is it such a challenge to get stuff like that done?
A lot of it, some people look at a bow as a weapon, more so as a tool to learn with and to exercise with and different things like that. We go through ungodly amounts of ALICE training for school shooting, stuff like that, and that's why I had to agree that the bows would be locked up at all times in my office. And there's a cable system on them and everything; you can't cut through it. And that's the biggest reason is they're worried about the safety of it.
So, do you think that that you're gonna, or as this word gets around in terms of what you've done, I haven't heard of anyone else doing this, and maybe it's more common than I think, and you could probably speak to that. But do you think that based on what you're seeing, as time goes on, that we're going to see more and more kids get re-engaged? I mean, I talk about, even though I'm big into hunting and do a little bit of fishing, it's still a topic that comes up, quite often. especially within the hunting industry, primarily because one of the concerns in the hunting industry is, you know, it's a bow isn't cheap.
No.
A Zebco, whatever, 33, and a dozen worms and hooks and some line, I think you can still get away for about $30.
Or less.
Or less. And, you know, if you're lucky enough, you can walk, you know, you can walk to go fishing. So, I'm just wondering if you're seeing more kids as a result, whether it be hunting or fishing, that are doing more of this stuff.
Yeah. So the previous 2 weeks we went out to Sighty Hollow and this was the first quarter I'd taken kids out. So I just got the grant this summer, and I had quite a few kids tell me that they went back after school or they went down to the trout stream before it closed here in October. And they actually went out and tried to do more fishing. A goal of mine too is to have it so I can check like fishing poles out for kids that are that need them, and they can bring them back when they're done using them and doing them, different things like that. As far as hunting as a whole, that's the tough part. Is typically with hunting you're using a gun, so. The school is not the place. In a perfect world, I'd love to be able to teach hunter safety right at the school. I think every kid should go through hunter safety because it's kind of mislabeled as hunter safety because everyone that takes it is going hunting. But my stepson Harper is 8 years old, and if he found a loaded gun, he hasn't taken hunter safety yet. He could unload that better and safer than most adults. It's just how you raise them, and I think hunter safety is with the name like hunter safety, it's kind of misleading because everyone should go through it just in case you were to come across the gun and needed to unload it or safely put it back in a gun safe or check it to see if it even is loaded, different things like that.
Hunter safety is part of curriculums in other states, is it not?
Yeah, I believe I think Iowa and Kansas for sure.
I know Kentucky is as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be great.
Trav, are you aware of any others?
Oh, I'm sure there's, you get out in the western states. I mean, they teach calf roping, in grade school out there. I mean, it's it just has to deal with, I think, the denser the population, the more sensitive it is. And it's harder to get through those grants because it's just you have more opinions, whatever side you're on. Anytime you have more density, you have more opinions, which then gets everybody on their heels that they don't want to do anything because they might, ruin somebody's day or something. It's just it's the world we live in. It's sad. But we just got to have guys like you, Adam, teaching these kids right from wrong. And it's not that you're teaching them to go out and, you have to go hunting and stuff like that, but it also teaches people right from wrong. So,
yeah. And I have quite a few, females will say, well, why do we have to go fishing? Because 9 times out of 10, they're either scared of putting the worm on the hook or they're scared of taking the fish off. And I always tell them, like, you are going to eventually get married at some point and probably have a child, and they're going to want to go fishing, and you need to learn how to do all this so you can pass that skill on whether you like to do it or not. I don't force my boys to go hunting. They just do it because they love it, and it's a passion to them as well. And I try to use my platform because I can reach, like I said, a couple hundred kids every year to shoot bows and to get into fishing because that's easy. That stuff's in my curriculum already. That's finding a way to incorporate the hunting part. So I'm super big into taking kids out for the youth hunt, for even the turkey hunt and the youth deer hunt. There's nothing better. Kid gets their first deer.
Absolutely.
My stepson Harper is 8 years old. In Wisconsin here, you can legally take them out as a mentor hunt, and we shot for weeks. I mean, he'd ask me all the time, let's take the 223 out, and he shot his first buck. It was a little 4-pointer, and that's going to be down in the man cave on a pedestal mount, little little European mall. That's going to be awesome. That was one of the coolest hunts I've ever been on. And I've taken countless amount of kids out on the youth hunt and the youth turkey hunt, and we've gotten a lot of success. Even when you don't get one, it's still a successful hunt.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can contest to that time and time over. It's, but yeah, I feel your pain a little bit because it was 3 years ago now. SCI puts on that seminar for kids at the McKenzie Center where they teach them trapping. They teach them how to shoot a pellet, the kicking bears there and a lot of other people that donate a lot of their time back. And I reached out to all the schools, the public schools, the two parochial schools for 5th and 6th graders, and volunteered to pay for all the busing. Luckily, and I think I had a little bit of influence. The private school my kids go to, I got them to take the 5th and 6th graders. And I really didn't know how it was going to turn out when it was done. We get my group that I was chaperoning, we get to the first station, and the guy is, skinning a rat and pulling it through. And I was like, oh, gosh, I'm just waiting for the phone calls to start coming and the text messages. Yeah. And I got those text messages, and everybody thanking me for taking their kids there that day. And but, again, we live in that world where we're worried about what everybody else feels, but, we take that aside and just do what we feel is right. And, when it's all said and done, it does touch some kids' hearts, and that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. I have honestly only had one parent say anything, and that was an issue with them worried about me keeping their kid's social security number when we went to log on, because on the Go Wild page for Wisconsin DNR, to get a customer number, you have to have your birth date and your social security number. So that's the only gruff I got, and it wasn't even very bad. I just had to to assure them that I wasn't writing that number down or keeping it anywhere.
That's I don't even know. I mean, that's great that you're doing that. I know Portage. We donate. UC Hunting Properties donates to the Portage Trap Team. And that's ran through Pheasants Forever. I don't know if that's a state thing for Pheasants Forever, or if it's just our local chapter, but it's just kind of, it's kind of cool. And, with Jason, was there this weekend, this Sunday, we did a first time, my brother-in-law and my nephew, they never been goose hunting. We took them goose hunting, had a great time. But my nephew shoots trap, 3-4 times a month, and he's a good shot. And and safety, the guy kind of makes sure everybody's being safe. It's and that's great out of a 13-year-old. So
yeah, that's good to hear.
Adam, I guess if I'm not interrupting, guys, I was curious.
No, you're good.
You're good.
I was curious.
We could go on all day about this.
Right. What kind of? I guess I'm not sure how to frame the question, but how is it that you're able to get kids out for the first time? Like, how is it that you're, like, say someone wants to get involved and help take a kid on a mentored hunt, because we're in the fall here. There's still plenty of opportunity to do that, whether it's youth season or not. Coming up here in the gun deer season, and there's plenty of gun deer season. In your opinion, what have you found are the best ways to do that?
A lot of it is just talking inside your community. There's all kinds of kids, especially if you talk to anybody that teaches hunter safety. A lot of kids will take it and not hunt. I've been fortunate enough to, my dad's has been a police officer. He just retired this year, but it was for like 32 years or something like that. He was the chief of police in a small town. So word got around, and he would ask people, and people are more than welcome to have their kid go with you. And a lot of people will open their land up for that youth season if you just knock on the door and ask, especially for turkey hunting. But the biggest thing is sometimes even contacting teachers at school. They'll see kids that are interested in it and might not actually have the opportunity to do it. But a lot of it's through hunter safety and things like that. Around here in Wisconsin, we have like the Learn to Hunt turkey hunts. So there's actually a mentored turkey hunt before the youth season, the week before, where the kids go to like the sportsman's club, and a lot of it's sponsored by Cabela's around here. I'm not sure other parts of the state, but they can sign up and they learn how to call turkeys. They learn how to track turkeys, roost turkeys, anything to do with turkey hunting. They shoot the shotguns, and then they go out and hunt after that for the entire weekend. And they meet back each day at lunchtime and go over the successes and different things like that. So there's quite a few programs actually in our area where you can join. I'm hopefully getting into the Gaze Mills program this year for the mentored hunt, because I already do a lot of the youth hunt. You don't need to be in a program for that. But there's a lot of opportunities out there and clubs to join, sportsman's clubs, anything like that, where there's people there.
Okay.
You can ask.
Trav, what kind of experience have you had with that?
Well, I mean, the mentors, I do through SCI every year. I do. Well, it started out doing a handicap hunter, and we would do a drawing, and then it kind of took off. And last year we drew for a handicap youth hunt in Missouri, and we had a ton of people apply, or I don't know what you call it, get into the drawing. And SCI came through and said, we will give, another hunt. So I was fortunate enough last year to go down to Missouri and harvest a young lady out of down by Milwaukee area, harvested a nice 11-pointer in a whole 12-minute hunt, and that was just unbelievable. And the guy that dropped us off, I call him. I said, Mikey, we already shot one. He said, I'm not even back to the lodge yet. And then Tucker, who I spent 5 days, and Mr. Perfect, is basically what he came out to be, because he was there to shoot a giant. I mean, he passed up on a couple of deer that I was like, Tucker, you drove all the way here from Louisiana with your dad, and you can take anything you want. And he's like, no, I came here for a big deer. And Tucker was a very active kid at 14 years old. He rolled his UTV, and two of his vertebrae kind of got all messed up, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. And so it made it very challenging. He was in a wheelchair, and the first day he shows up, and we got some ground blinds set up, and he said, everybody says they're, in the beans, and do you have anything really in the beans? And we're like, we have banks blinds that are elevated. He goes, we can get in them. We got him in his wheelchair and all those banks blinds by him and his dad and I. And through all that, we're hunting again this year together. We raised some money, just amongst my friends to bring him back up, because I wanted to give a buck. I mean, Jason had to take a step aside from pulling the trigger this year, and but it's just, he's down in Louisiana, I'm up here, and we contact each other weekly. And the hearts that we all touch with this, including our own. I mean, we're not doing it for the publicity or anything. We're doing it because we love to see the reactions on people's faces. And these kids, it's heartwarming.
Oh, there's
we'll be right down there this year. And actually, we did the auction for it this year at SCI. And we sold another one, and the guy said, hey, does it have to be a youth? And a handicap. I said, no. I said, I would like to send a disabled veteran. So this year we're adding a disabled veteran to the hunt. We do have a youth hunt also during the Missouri youth season, which is towards the end of November. So I'm sacrificing the whole rifle season, first time ever, to be down there for these, these people that are less fortunate than we are. And I didn't bat an eye
with the date.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I will represent you well in your stand, Trev.
I'm going to cut them all down before I leave.
I think it's super important, that people get involved, because I think that it's the only way that we keep this sport alive. I think it's not too far fetched to think that absent things like this and getting involved, even in a small way, whether it's just donating maybe some extra clothes that you have or things of that nature. I think it's those kind of things that we all need to do to keep this thing going. Otherwise, I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see participation continue to diminish. Primarily, I think, Adam, you could probably speak to this. Primarily, just out of the simple fact that some of these kids don't have the opportunity and access. Yep. I think access is a huge deal. Is that accurate?
That is a huge deal. Yep. We have all these farms that used to be 400 and 500 acres, and they get split up into little sections of 40s, and it gets harder and harder, even for the everyday hunter to get access on land. And public land gets more and more packed. But it's hard for young people to get access if they don't have a family member. I was fortunate that my grandpa had land, my uncle's got land, and I can still hunt all those. I can hunt a couple other farms that I get permission to just from family friends. So I'm in a very fortunate place that I have a lot of private land to hunt. And that's kind of part of the reason too why I try to take as many kids out as I can. The problem is one guy can only take out a couple kids for the rifle season and a couple kids for the turkey hunt, depending on the success that you have. And, you can't really reach a ton of kids. So we got to get more guys to take out kids, because if everybody took out a couple kids a year, I think it would be a huge, huge factor. All it takes is one good experience of hearing a turkey walk behind you and gobble, or having a buck step out in front of you and you're shaking like a leaf, and those kids are just hooked.
What are the best ways, Adam, that you found? Travis, you certainly could speak to it as well. I haven't had a lot of luck. I've thrown things out there on Facebook, and it just hasn't worked in terms of getting kids out there. Maybe because I haven't done it soon enough, or I do it the week of, and it just doesn't work out. But what have you guys found? Adam, you can go ahead and lead off if you want. What have you found that seems to work the best in terms of being able to take someone out hunting or fishing, for that matter, for the first time?
Well, fortunately at school, they don't really have a choice once they get in my class to go out fishing or not.
Right. Well, you're cheating.
Yeah. But as for hunting, a lot of it is getting out and being prepared ahead of time. The first time I ever took a girl out for the youth deer hunt, she had told me she shot a lot with her dad the prior week too, and so I didn't take her out. That was my mistake. I always take them out to the range a few times now, but I was obviously a learning curve. But we had a buck step out at 100 yards, and she was shaking like a leaf, and she said, "I've only shot a 22." And I said, "Well, this is a 243, but it kicks less." And, they shoot and they don't even feel it. And she shot and dropped the buck right there. But a lot of it is just, getting them prepared to be out there, and while you're out there, teach them as much as you can, even the simplest things that you might look over, like just which way the wind's blowing, asking them that, tree stand safety, how to properly put on a harness. There's a lot of people falling I see in Wisconsin the last couple of weeks, especially as we gear up here to rut. There's always a few more. And then just the difference between a buck track and a doe track, or a scrape and a rub, those little things like that, those are what they talk about. I know my little guy Harper, he knows what a buck track and a doe track was, but you ought to hear the story out of that kid. It's 20 minutes long for a 20-minute hunt. He tells you every little minor detail of everything we talked about, and he's just jacked about it. Can't wait to go back out in November here. But a lot of a lot of it's just getting prepared and meeting the kid for a while, talking with them even before you shoot, making sure they're comfortable shooting. I always try to do the test where you put a blank shell into the gun, or you don't put one in at all, and when they click the gun to see how bad they jump, type deal. And they usually get mad at you because they want to shoot right away, But a lot of it's just being prepared and having a good plan, and it makes your parents feel comfortable and they get excited to go out.
Awesome. Adam, really quick, before I turn it over to Trev, what if someone wanted to ask you, whether it's one of your peers in another school district, wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they could do that? Or maybe it's a different state. What would be the best way that they could reach you? Maybe email?
Yeah, probably my school email, which is steada@viroquablackhawk.org, VIROQUA Blackhawk.org.
Okay.
And seriously, if you have any questions about that archery grant, that's kind of sponsored by NASP, the National Archery and School Program, and any school in Wisconsin, I know for sure, can pretty much get the money through that. There's so many companies like SDI and Whitetail Unlimited and all those that donate to that, and they can get you as much money as you need to cover for what you have in class.
And
as far as the fish, what's that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. As far as the fishing grant goes, I've had a couple people. I posted it on Facebook. It's kind of how we connected. And it's been on the radio a little bit in Viroqua, and some people have gotten a hold of me. That program runs every 2 years, but I would be more than glad to send some emails of how I wrote my grants, the target populations and anything like that to help people out. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this to get as many kids in the sport of fishing and hunting as possible using my platform as a teacher.
Awesome. I will put your email in the show notes if you would do me a favor and just shoot me a text with your email so I get it correct.
Yep.
Travis, you had mentioned that you do some disabled hunts, and I know we're past the deadline this year. Disabled veteran hunts. What's the best way for someone to get a hold of you? Whether it's maybe they want to contribute in some way, shape, or form, or maybe they know someone who would want to participate. Again, whether they're an actual hunter or whether it's someone that just wants to lend a hand, what would be the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, a lot of the drawings and everything like that we do. I send out on my personal Facebook page, excuse me, and then my agents send it out. Other people in SCI and other people that went on the hunt. Social media is the biggest drive of it. We haven't in the past set up a call center or anything like that. It's been kind of pretty much just throw it out there and have people share. Like going back to Tucker, that was a guy in Texas that saw my Facebook post that was shared by somebody else that was shared with him, and Tucker's dad calls me, and then he ends up the winner. So the power of Facebook is a huge thing. Some of the things we've learned is always have a backup. Now my feeling was going into it, the backup, I think it'd feel like the first loser, like I feel like when I lose, but no, they're excited just to be there, because the reason why we want to back up is last year we scrambled in October. I mean, we're in the, right now looking for somebody for November, because the person we had lined up for the hunt went in for a September surgery and just didn't recover good enough, and they couldn't make the hunt. So we learned that going into, the years, now, this year, to have a backup, be ready to go. And we do have those. But, social media and just the network, SCI, have really helped push it out. Someday it'd be great to get bigger, but I'd need a lot more volunteers.
All right, now I'll stick that stuff in the show notes, guys. Before we go, Adam, what's the deer activity like in your world?
I actually have been struggling. I obviously hunt pretty close to one of your leases there. And the neighboring farm is taking a lot of deer with egg tags. So I've been normally getting like 2,000 pictures on a couple of my cameras every week, every 2 weeks. And I check them. I hadn't checked them since August, try to kind of stay out of the area.
Uh-huh.
And I had one deer picture on there, and that was it. So
oh, wow.
That's for the last 7 or 8 years I've bow hunted this long ridge, and that's been just killer if I stay out of there until now, till the pre-rut and the rut. But a lot of my friends have been sending me Snapchats while I'm at work, and they're sitting in the stands in the morning, and the deer just cruising like crazy the last couple of days. Little bucks are sparring, chasing does a little bit. But this cold front here, if you can get out the next couple of days, is going to be stellar, I think.
Both Travis and I have each lost a trail camera. Well, we didn't lose the trail camera. I had one of my cellular cameras took a beating last night somehow. I had a couple pictures of some bucks fighting, and pretty soon the camera's staring up at the sky. Trav, didn't you have that happen on your Cuddy Link system?
Yeah, and I mean, on the Cuddy Link systems, they got this Genius pole that's kind of like a threaded rod pole, but it's powder coated and everything. It bent that pole right in half and slammed my camera into the ground. And so I made a little video of because I have it on, photo bursts, like 3 or 4 photos at a time. So it looked like a video of them fighting. And then all of a sudden you just see the next picture is daylight green the next day. So
one of the guys I used to teach with, he sent me a picture, and it was just his camera was hanging lower, and he got an elk on his camera out by Viroqua. And I told him, I'm like, that is 100% an elk. I said, just wait, more people will post pictures on the internet, and through social media.
It's a spike elk.
Yeah,
right?
It's a spike elk.
Yeah.
And through social media that night, they had it in Viroqua, then they had it in Reedstown, which is a few miles south of the crow flies, where they got that one at. Then I saw they had it in Grant County, and they saw it in Crawford County. It was one of the collared elk here in Wisconsin. So that's pretty cool.
For real, I guess I feel like I live under a rock because I didn't hear anything. Oh, you know what? I did too. I did have somebody send me that. Wow.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. So, well, be careful you don't shoot an elk.
No kidding.
Well, things are just about to get fun here in the next few days. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Anybody have anything else they want to add?
Just anytime you can get a kid out
in the outdoors.
Fishing, get them outdoors.
Yep, exactly.
Well, there you have it, my interview with Mr. Adam Stenner and, of course, the world-famous Travis Hamele. Thanks, guys, for taking the time to spend talking about getting people involved in the outdoors. Again, I think it's super important. I think it's one of the biggest challenges that is going to affect our sport down the road, and that's getting new folks recruited into the outdoor lifestyle, whether it's fishing, hunting, or whatever the case may be. Take a second and think about it, whether it's just giving some equipment to someone who may not have some, or actually taking someone out. Make sure you just take a second and critically think about what it is that you could do to help out one of these folks that really wants to but doesn't quite know how to. With that, I'll end the show for the day. I want to thank Ozonics, our partner in this endeavor. Without them, we couldn't do what it is that we do. For those of you who don't know, Ozonics is factory ship direct. Go to www.ozonicshunting.com and you can see all the different specials they've got there now with the HR 300, 400, 250. They've got different bundles and different packages and different sales going on all the time. So make sure you check them out. That's it. Jason out.